Mail-order bride rejected for her limp, until a quiet rancher said, "Walk with me." Clara stepped off the small shuttle, her boots crunching against the dusty, red soil of the frontier planet. She adjusted the strap of her worn bag across her shoulder and looked around. The settlement sprawled across a rocky plain, with low wooden buildings, a few metallic structures, and strange alien plants sprouting from the cracks in the ground. The sky above was a pale purple, with two suns casting long shadows across the settlement. Clara's heart raced with nervous anticipation. This was her chance to start a new life, but the fear of rejection clung to her like a heavy cloak. Her limp had always made her self-conscious. When she walked, one foot dragged slightly, the result of an accident in her childhood. On Earth, people had stared, whispered, and rejected her. She hoped this new world would be different, but deep down, she knew fear could follow her anywhere. Clara approached the landing station, where settlers and ranchers were busy unloading supplies and exchanging messages with distant colonies. She had been matched with a rancher through a mail-order system. Her journey had been long, and she carried only the essentials in her bag: some clothes, a few personal keepsakes, and a photo of her late mother, which she clutched tightly now. As she walked, she noticed a group of men leaning near a transport shuttle, laughing and pointing in her direction. Their faces twisted in amusement as they noticed her limp. One of them stepped forward. "Well, looks like the new bride can barely walk," he said, his tone mocking. "Think she'll make it to the ranch without falling?" The others laughed loudly, and Clara's cheeks burned. She kept her head high and walked past them, but their words stung. The mail-order system promised that she would find acceptance and security with her new family, but the reality felt harsher than she had imagined. Other suitors in the station barely gave her a second glance, judging her instantly by her walk. Clara's stomach twisted in discomfort. She had dreamed of this day for years, imagining a warm welcome, a kind word, someone who would see past her limp. But instead, she felt invisible, or worse, a target for ridicule. She turned away from the crowd and started along the dusty path that led to the ranch she had been promised. The terrain was rough and uneven, dotted with strange, glowing rocks that pulsed faintly in the sunlight. Alien plants swayed gently in the breeze, some with bright, translucent leaves. Clara's pace was slow but steady. Her bag pressed against her back, and the sun beat down, making the path even more challenging. She stumbled slightly on a loose stone and cursed under her breath, hating that her limp seemed to slow her even more. From a distance, she noticed a figure watching her. At first, she thought it was another settler judging her. But as she drew closer, she realized it was a man standing near a small wooden fence. He was tall and rugged, with broad shoulders and hands that looked worn from work. Unlike the others, he didn't sneer or laugh. He just watched, his expression calm and unreadable. His dark hair fell loosely around his face, and his eyes held a quiet curiosity. Clara hesitated. She had been warned not to trust strangers, especially on this remote planet. But there was something different about this man. He didn't seem interested in mocking her. He seemed patient. Before she could reach the ranch gate, another man approached, sneering. "What are you doing here? You don't belong in a place like this," he said, his voice sharp. Clara felt the familiar sting of rejection wash over her, and her heart sank. She wanted to turn and run, but the rugged figure stepped forward, cutting the other man off without a word. His presence was commanding, yet calm. Then he spoke softly, almost to himself, but loud enough for Clara to hear. "Walk with me." Clara blinked. The words were simple, but they carried a weight she hadn't felt in a long time. Hesitant, she nodded, unsure what else to do. The man extended his hand slightly, but not in the usual gesture of greeting or protection. It was more like an invitation, gentle, patient, and free of judgment. She matched his pace as they walked along the rocky path. For the first time since arriving, she felt a strange sense of relief. The man didn't comment on her limp, didn't rush her, didn't make her feel small. He simply walked beside her, his steps measured, steady, and confident. The alien plains stretched endlessly around them, the wind carrying a faint hum from distant energy generators and the soft rustle of strange alien foliage. Clara began to notice details she had missed before. The way the rocks glowed faintly under the sun, the strange colors in the sky that shifted as the suns moved, and the occasional alien bird with translucent wings darting across the horizon. For the first time in a long while, she felt something close to peace. The man finally spoke again, his voice quiet but firm. "You're stronger than you think," he said. This place, it will judge you at first, but strength isn't always about speed or perfection. It's about persistence. Keep walking. Clara's throat tightened. No one had ever spoken to her this way before. She wanted to cry, but she swallowed the tears. Instead, she nodded, feeling a small spark of hope ignite inside her. As they approached the ranch, she saw it nestled in a small valley. Unlike the other ranches she had glimpsed from the path, this one was modest. The wooden fences were sturdy but simple, and the buildings were practical, built to withstand the harsh winds that swept across the plains. A few robotic assistants moved about, tending to livestock and equipment, but most of the work seemed to be done by hand. The ranch had an air of quiet strength, much like the man who had walked with her. They reached the gate and the man stopped. "This is where you begin," he said. He didn't introduce himself fully and he didn't ask for her story. He simply gestured toward the ranch. "Walk with me and you will find your place." Clara took a deep breath and stepped forward. The weight of her journey pressed on her, but she felt a strange courage she hadn't felt before. She would not let her past or her limp define her. Not here, not now. As they walked into the ranch, Clara noticed the care that had gone into it. The livestock moved calmly in their pens, trusting the humans who cared for them. The alien crops swayed gently, nourished by a combination of solar energy and robotic irrigation. She could see the work it took to maintain this place, and a flicker of admiration passed through her. Whoever had built this ranch had done so with patience and skill. The man finally turned to her fully. His face was lined from years of work in the harsh environment, but his eyes were gentle. "I am Ethan," he said simply. "I don't often have visitors, but when someone comes walking, even slowly, I pay attention." Clara felt her lips part, unsure what to say. Words failed her as they often did when she felt nervous. Instead, she nodded. I'm Clara," she said softly. Ethan inclined his head. "Clara," he said, as if tasting the name. "Good, let's start there, step by step." The day faded into evening. The twin suns dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of crimson and gold. The alien landscape seemed to glow under the dying light. Clara followed Ethan as he led her to the main barn, where a few robotic assistants were securing the livestock. She felt nervous but also a quiet thrill. For the first time, she was not being mocked or judged. She was simply being seen. As night fell, the settlement quieted. Clara and Ethan stood outside the barn, looking at the stars emerging one by one. Some were pale blue, others flickered green or gold. The sight was mesmerizing. Clara realized that this world, with all its alien strangeness, might just be a place where she could belong. Ethan finally spoke again. "Tomorrow," he said, "you'll begin helping with the ranch. Nothing fancy, just learning the land, the animals, and the work it takes to keep them alive. You will stumble, you may fall, but I will not let you fail alone. Walk with me and you'll see." Clara swallowed hard, feeling her heart swell with cautious hope. For the first time in a long time, she believed that her limp would not hold her back. In this strange, rugged world, with a quiet rancher by her side, she might finally find her place. As she settled into the small guest room, the sounds of alien insects and the hum of machinery filled the night. Clara lay on the narrow bed, staring at the ceiling. She thought about the journey that had brought her here, the rejections, the fears, and the long path ahead. And she thought about Ethan, the quiet man who had simply said, "Walk with me." She drifted to sleep with a sense of peace she had never known, ready to face whatever the next day would bring. The next morning, Clara awoke to the sound of soft wind whistling through the alien plains. She sat on the narrow bed of her small guest room, stretching her arms and trying to steady her nerves. Today was the first full day on the ranch, and she felt a mix of excitement and fear. Her limp made her anxious, but she reminded herself of Ethan's words, "Walk with me. You will find your place." She dressed quickly in the simple clothing provided, a sturdy shirt and trousers suitable for ranch work, and stepped outside. The twin suns were just rising, casting pale purple and orange light across the rocky landscape. The ranch looked different in daylight, more alive. Alien crops swayed gently in the breeze, their leaves shimmering faintly with a glow, and the livestock moved calmly in their pens. A few robotic helpers floated over the ground, attending to small tasks with quiet precision. Ethan was already outside, checking the perimeter and adjusting a solar-powered water pump. When he saw Clara, he gave a small nod. "Ready to start?" he asked, his voice low but steady. Clara swallowed hard and nodded. "Yes," she said. He handed her a bucket. First, we feed the livestock. Keep your steps slow and steady. Watch the ground, the rocks can be tricky. Clara carefully followed him to the pens. There were creatures she had never seen before. Some looked like a mix between cows and alien quadrupeds, their skin covered in faintly luminescent patches. They were calm but curious, sniffing the bucket Clara carried. She fed them carefully, noticing how Ethan moved effortlessly among them, guiding her with quiet instruction. "You're doing fine," Ethan said after a few minutes. "Keep your pace, don't rush. Strength comes from steady steps, not hurried ones." Clara nodded, taking comfort in his guidance. For the first time, she felt that her limp was not a flaw but simply a part of her rhythm. She moved carefully, matching her steps to the creature's pace, and found herself gaining confidence. After feeding the animals, Ethan led her to a field where strange crops grew in neat rows. "These are solar plants," he explained. "They store energy and help power the ranch. Some of them need careful pruning, others need water. Watch first, then you'll try." Clara knelt beside a glowing plant, examining its leaves. She had never worked with crops before, and her fingers trembled slightly as she reached out. Ethan watched silently, offering occasional tips. "Gentle," he said. "These plants respond to touch. Too rough and you can damage them. Slow, steady, careful." Clara worked slowly, learning to adjust her movements. Each success, however small, made her heart lift. She felt proud of herself for the first time in many years. The sun climbed higher in the sky and sweat trickled down her back, but she didn't mind. The work was honest, grounding, and strangely satisfying. During a brief break, Clara and Ethan sat on a low ridge overlooking the ranch. The landscape stretched endlessly, jagged rocks and alien flora glowing softly under the sun. "It's beautiful," Clara said quietly. Ethan nodded, not looking at her directly. "It is, but beauty isn't always easy to reach. You have to work for it, protect it, or it will fade. That's the way of this land and the way of life here." Clara considered his words. Life had not been easy for her either, and she realized that this ranch with its alien challenges was a test, but also an opportunity. She wanted to prove herself not just to Ethan, but to herself. After the break, Ethan led her to the barn. "Next, we handle repairs and equipment," he said. He showed her a small hover cart that moved along tracks to carry feed and tools. "This cart helps us save time, but it can break if mishandled. Watch first, then you'll try." Clara observed carefully as Ethan demonstrated how to adjust the controls. Then it was her turn. Her hands trembled slightly as she gripped the handles, guiding the cart along the track. The first few attempts were awkward. She stumbled slightly, her limp making her less steady. Ethan stepped close, his presence reassuring. "Take your time," he said. "One careful step at a time, you'll get it." Slowly, Clara gained control. The cart moved smoothly along the track, and she felt a surge of accomplishment. Ethan nodded approvingly. "See, you can do more than you think. Strength isn't always about speed. Sometimes it's about patience and persistence." As the afternoon wore on, Clara learned more about the ranch. How to maintain the water pumps, how to repair small sections of fencing, and how to tend to the glowing crops. She stumbled occasionally, and her limp made some tasks harder, but Ethan's quiet encouragement kept her going. By the time the suns began to dip toward the horizon, she felt exhausted but proud. They paused at the edge of the field, watching the sunset. The sky was a brilliant display of crimson, gold, and violet. Clara felt a calm she had not known in years. "It's peaceful here," she said softly. Ethan's gaze followed the horizon. "It can be," he said, "but peace is earned. You have to work for it, protect it. And sometimes you need someone to walk with you." Clara looked at him. There was a quiet strength in his eyes, a patience that made her feel safe. "Thank you for walking with me," she said. Ethan nodded, saying nothing more. Words were not always needed. The silence between them was comfortable, filled with mutual respect and understanding. As night fell, Clara helped Ethan secure the livestock and equipment. The stars emerged one by one, bright against the dark sky. Clara had never seen a night sky like this. Alien constellations glimmering, planets visible even to the naked eye, and a faint glow from distant moons. She felt small, but in a way that was freeing. Later, inside the small ranch house, Ethan offered Clara a simple meal of bread, roasted vegetables, and water. They ate quietly, the only sounds the crackle of a small fire and the hum of distant machinery. Clara thought about her journey, the rejections, the long travel, the fear of being unwanted, and realized that for the first time she felt welcomed, even if in a quiet, understated way. After dinner, Ethan handed her a small tool kit. "Tomorrow," he said, "we'll continue with repairs and checks around the ranch. Every day you'll learn something new. Don't worry about mistakes. Are part of learning. You'll find your pace." Clara nodded, holding the tools. She felt a quiet determination. She was not the same timid girl who had stepped off the shuttle the day before. Here, on this remote frontier world, she had purpose. She had work to do, and for the first time she felt she might belong. Before going to bed, Clara stepped outside again, breathing in the cool night air. The alien winds swept across the plains, carrying the scent of strange flowers and the faint hum of distant machinery. She looked up at the stars, feeling a sense of connection to this vast, mysterious world. And somewhere nearby, she knew Ethan watched over the ranch, a silent presence that offered both guidance and trust. Clara lay down on the narrow bed, thinking about the words he had said. "Walk with me. You will find your place." She realized that walking was not just about moving forward physically. It was about facing fear, taking steps despite uncertainty, and finding courage in her own rhythm. Her limp was no longer a burden. It was a part of her journey, a reminder of her strength and persistence. As sleep claimed her, Clara felt hope. Tomorrow she would learn more, grow more, and take another step toward belonging on this rugged, beautiful ranch. And for the first time in her life, she felt ready to walk, not just with Ethan, but with herself. The next morning, the sky was calm, but Clara noticed a strange tension in the air. The twin suns shone weakly through thin clouds, and a faint electric hum filled the plains. Ethan moved through the ranch with quiet efficiency, checking the livestock, repairing broken fences, and adjusting equipment. Clara followed closely, carrying tools and supplies, her steps careful but confident. "You're improving," Ethan said as she adjusted a water pump. "Your limp doesn't slow you down anymore. You work at your own rhythm, and that is enough." Clara smiled faintly, feeling pride in her work. The animals had grown accustomed to her presence, and she could move among them without fear or hesitation. But as they worked, the hum in the air grew louder and the clouds above began to twist unnaturally. A storm was coming, one unlike anything she had experienced before. Ethan noticed it first. He looked up at the sky, his eyes narrowing. "Storm," he said simply. His calm demeanor never faltered, but there was urgency in his voice. "We need to secure the ranch. Move fast." Clara's stomach tightened. The wind picked up and small rocks and dust swirled around her. She had learned to trust Ethan, but she had never faced a storm like this. Yet she did not hesitate. She grabbed extra ropes, securing the alien livestock pens, and followed Ethan as he moved quickly to check the solar panels and water systems. The storm hit hard. Electric winds lashed across the plains, tearing at the crops and rattling the structures. Rain, mixed with glowing particles from the alien soil, poured down in sheets. Clara struggled to keep her footing on the slick rocks, her limp making every step a challenge. Ethan was beside her, steady and calm, guiding her when she faltered. "Keep going," he shouted over the wind. "Step by step, don't stop." Clara nodded, gripping the ropes tightly as she helped secure the livestock. The creatures brayed and shifted nervously, sensing the storm. Clara spoke to them softly, coaxing them with calm words and gentle touches. She realized that her patience, which had been a source of shame on Earth, was now an asset. The animals responded to her quiet strength. Suddenly, one of the robotic helpers malfunctioned, its arms sparking dangerously near the largest livestock pen. Clara froze for a moment, heart racing. The animals could be hurt if the robot failed completely. Without thinking, she stepped forward, directing Ethan and the other robots to stabilize it. Her hands were steady, her mind focused. Despite the storm and her own fears, she acted decisively. Ethan watched her, his expression unreadable at first. Then a small smile appeared. "Good work," he shouted over the wind. "You handled that perfectly, that is strength." Clara's chest swelled with pride, but she did not stop. The storm was relentless, and there was more work to do. They moved to the barn, securing tools, equipment, and feed. Clara learned to read the winds, to anticipate where the storm would strike next, and to work with Ethan's guidance to keep the ranch safe. Hours passed like this, a relentless battle against nature. Clara fell once, slipping on the slick rocks, but Ethan was there in an instant, steadying her. "Keep going," he said simply. "You're stronger than you know." By mid-afternoon, the worst of the storm had passed. The winds died down, leaving rain-soaked plains and broken branches scattered across the ranch. Clara was soaked, exhausted, but a deep satisfaction ran through her. They had survived. The livestock was safe, the crops mostly unharmed, and the equipment intact. Ethan walked beside her as they surveyed the ranch. "You did well," he said quietly. "Most people would have stopped or panicked, but you didn't. You adapted, you acted, and you protected what mattered. That is strength." Clara felt a warm glow in her chest. No one had ever praised her like this before. On Earth, she had been judged for her limp, for her quiet nature, for her past failures. Here, on this alien frontier, her courage mattered more than her physical limitations. She realized that she was beginning to understand what Ethan had meant when he said strength was more than speed or skill. It was heart, focus, and determination. As the storm clouds drifted away, the sun began to break through, casting light across the wet plains. Clara noticed how the rain had brought out colors she had not seen before. Greens of the alien plants brighter, the luminescent rocks glowing softly, and the creatures moving calmly again. The ranch felt alive in a new way, as if it had passed a test and earned the quiet peace that followed. Ethan finally spoke as they reached the barn. "Come inside, you need rest." Clara followed him, her legs aching but her heart full. Inside the barn, the warmth from the small fire was comforting. She removed her wet clothes and dried off, feeling the exhaustion settling into her bones. Ethan prepared a simple meal, and they ate quietly, the sounds of the barn and the faint hum of repaired machines filling the silence. After eating, Ethan handed her a small cloth. "Clean up the equipment tomorrow, make sure everything is ready for the next day. But for now, rest, you earned it." Clara nodded, folding the cloth and setting it aside. She sat for a moment looking at Ethan. There was no need for many words between them. The storm had been a trial, and she had passed it. More importantly, she had seen herself in a new light. Her limp did not make her weak. It made her thoughtful, careful, and able to handle challenges that others might not. That night, Clara lay on her narrow bed, listening to the quiet hum of the ranch. Outside, the alien landscape was peaceful, the sky clear, and the stars shining brightly. She thought about the storm, about the fear, and about the courage she had discovered within herself. For the first time in her life, she felt a deep sense of belonging. She was no longer the timid, rejected girl who had arrived on the planet. She was a part of this ranch, part of this strange frontier, and most importantly, she was learning to trust herself. Her thoughts drifted to Ethan. He had been quiet during the storm, but always present, always guiding, never judging. His presence was steady like the ranch itself, a constant she could rely on. She realized that trust was a kind of strength as well, one that allowed her to move forward even when the path was uncertain. As sleep began to claim her, Clara whispered softly, "Walk with me," echoing the words Ethan had said when they first met. She understood now that it was more than an invitation. It was a promise, a partnership. And in that partnership she had found courage, acceptance, and the first real sense of home she had ever known. Outside, the ranch lay quiet under the twin moons that had begun to rise. The alien creatures moved softly in their pens, and the machines hummed gently. The storm had tested them all, but the ranch had survived, and so had Clara. The night was calm, and Clara's breathing deepened as she drifted into sleep, ready to face whatever the alien frontier might bring tomorrow. She had walked through fear, faced the storm, and discovered a strength within herself that no rejection or obstacle could take away. For the first time in her life, she knew she could thrive here, and with Ethan walking beside her, she would never face the challenges alone. The morning sun rose slowly over the alien plains, painting the rocky terrain in shades of gold and violet. Clara awoke feeling refreshed, despite the exhaustion of the previous day's storm. Her muscles ached slightly, but it was a satisfying ache, the kind that came from hard work and survival. She sat on the edge of the narrow bed, watching the twin suns climb higher into the sky, and for the first time she felt a true sense of belonging. Ethan was already outside, tending to the livestock and inspecting the fields. Clara dressed quickly and stepped outside, the crisp morning air brushing against her face. The wind carried the sense of wet soil, alien flowers, and the faint metallic hum of the machinery. It was a peaceful moment, a calm after the storm. "You're early," Ethan said, looking up and giving her a small nod. His voice was quiet, but it carried a warmth that made her heart lift. Clara smiled faintly. "I wanted to start the day strong," she said. Ethan nodded approvingly. "Good. Today we finish repairing the storm damage and prepare for the next cycle. Then we can begin planting the new crops." The land rewards those who work steadily. Clara followed him, carrying tools and supplies. Her limp slowed her slightly, but she had learned to adapt, to move carefully and to pace herself. The ranch felt alive around her. The livestock moved calmly in their pens, the crops glowed faintly in the sunlight, and the robots hummed softly as they assisted in repairs. Ethan directed her to a section of fencing that had been damaged by the storm. "This will take focus and patience," he said. "Take your time, work carefully, and the fence will stand strong." Clara knelt beside the broken boards, her fingers steady as she worked. She felt a quiet pride in the precision of her movements. Each nail hammered, each plank adjusted, was a small victory. Ethan moved around her, checking the other repairs, but he kept an eye on her, ensuring she was safe. As the day progressed, Clara discovered new strengths within herself. She could manage tasks that required patience and care, her limp no longer a hindrance but a part of her deliberate rhythm. She learned to read the land, to notice the patterns of the soil, the growth of the crops, and the behavior of the livestock. She felt capable, strong, and valued. Ethan approached her during a brief break. "You're learning fast," he said, "more than most who arrive here. Not because you are perfect, but because you are willing to try to keep moving even when it is difficult. That is real strength." Clara's cheeks warmed at his words. She had never heard such praise before. On Earth, she had been judged for her limp, her quiet nature, her past mistakes. Here, her determination mattered more than perfection. She realized that her journey had been preparing her for this life, for this ranch, and for the quiet partnership she was building with Ethan. Later, Ethan led her to a new field, freshly cleared after the storm. "We will plant new crops here," he explained. "These will feed the ranch and provide trade with other colonies. Every step matters. Watch first, then try." Clara observed him carefully, noting how he moved among the rows, adjusting the soil, planting seeds with precision, and ensuring they were properly watered. When it was her turn, she stepped into the field, carrying small packets of seeds. Her hands moved steadily, her heart focused. Each seed placed in the ground felt like a promise of growth, survival, and a new beginning. As they worked together, a small group of settlers arrived from the neighboring ranches. They had heard of the storm and the damage it caused and came to check on Ethan's ranch. Some looked skeptical when they saw Clara. She noticed a few glances at her limp, whispers that carried a faint trace of doubt, but she did not falter. She continued planting, careful and steady, and soon the settlers' expressions shifted. They saw her skill, her calm in the chaos, and her dedication. One by one, they nodded in respect, and Clara felt a quiet satisfaction. She realized that acceptance was not something given lightly. It was earned through courage, patience, and perseverance. As the day wore on, the settlers helped repair fences, tend to the livestock, and assist with planting. Clara worked alongside them, her confidence growing with each task completed. She no longer felt like an outsider. She was part of the ranch, part of the community, and part of the larger purpose that Ethan had quietly nurtured. In the late afternoon, Ethan led Clara to a small ridge overlooking the plains. The twin suns were beginning to set, casting long shadows and turning the sky into a brilliant display of crimson, orange, and purple. The alien landscape seemed to glow with a soft light, the aftermath of the storm highlighting the resilience of the land and the life it sustained. "You've done well," Ethan said quietly, his eyes scanning the horizon. "The ranch, the animals, the crops, everything is stable. But more importantly, you've grown. You've learned patience, strength, and how to move forward even when the path is difficult. That is the mark of someone who belongs here." Clara felt a swell of emotion. She had never felt so seen, so valued, and so capable. Her limp, once a source of shame, had become a symbol of her determination and adaptability. She realized that she had not only survived the storm but had proven her worth, not just to Ethan, but to herself. As they stood together on the ridge, a gentle breeze swept across the plains, carrying the scents of alien flowers and fresh soil. Clara looked at Ethan, noticing the quiet pride in his eyes, the steady strength in his posture, and the calm patience that had guided her through the challenges of the ranch. "Walk with me," Ethan said softly, echoing the words he had spoken when they first met. But this time it was different. It was not an invitation for reassurance. It was a statement of partnership, trust, and shared purpose. Clara nodded, a smile spreading across her face. She took his hand, feeling the strength and warmth in his grasp. Together they walked across the ridge, side by side, stepping carefully on the uneven ground but moving forward with confidence. The ranch stretched before them, resilient and thriving, a testament to their work, patience, and courage. As night fell, they returned to the ranch house. Clara helped Ethan secure the livestock for the night, checking fences and water supplies. The settlers who remained offered quiet thanks and smiles, acknowledging her skill and dedication. She realized that she was no longer the timid, rejected girl who had arrived days before. She was a part of something larger, a vital part of the ranch and its community. Inside the house, Clara prepared a small meal while Ethan worked on repairs to the equipment. They ate together, the warmth of the fire and the soft hum of the machines creating a comforting atmosphere. Clara felt a sense of peace she had never known, a calm born from accomplishment, belonging, and trust. After the meal, they stepped outside again, looking up at the stars that now filled the alien sky. Some shone pale blue, others flickered green or gold, and distant moons glimmered faintly. Clara marveled at the beauty of the universe, feeling small yet connected, aware of the vastness of the frontier and the possibilities it held. Ethan stood beside her, silent but present. Clara felt a quiet gratitude for his guidance, his patience, and his unwavering belief in her. She realized that true strength was not just in surviving the storm or completing tasks. It was in trust, partnership, and the courage to keep walking even when the path was uncertain. Clara took a deep breath, letting the cool night air fill her lungs. She thought about the journey that had brought her here, the long travel, the rejections, the fear, and realized that each step had prepared her for this moment. She had faced challenges, learned, grown, and discovered a resilience she had never known she possessed. As she stood on the porch of the ranch house, watching the alien stars twinkle above, Clara whispered softly to herself, "Walk with me." She understood now that it was more than a request, it was a promise. A promise to face challenges, to grow, and to move forward with courage, trust, and determination. Ethan finally spoke, his voice quiet but steady. "Tomorrow we plant the main crops. The work will be hard, but you are ready. You've proven yourself, and we'll face it together." Clara nodded, feeling a sense of anticipation and excitement. She had walked through fear, weathered the storm, and found a place where she belonged. The ranch, the land, the creatures, and Ethan, all were now a part of her life, and she was ready to embrace the challenges and joys that lay ahead. As she lay down that night, Clara felt a deep sense of contentment. The ranch was safe, the storm behind them, and the future full of possibility. She had found strength in herself, trust in Ethan, and belonging in a place that had once seemed so intimidating. For the first time, she felt truly at home. Outside, the alien plains were quiet under the twin moons. The livestock rested calmly, and the crops shimmered softly under the moonlight. Clara closed her eyes, letting sleep claim her, ready to rise the next day stronger, braver, and more determined. She had walked through trials and emerged stronger, ready to face whatever challenges the frontier world might bring, with Ethan beside her and her own courage guiding her every step.